You are now listening to Cryptid Cocktail Party. Creatures, let's meet for a drink. It's a treat. Join us in the fight. Cryptid Cocktail Party. Cryptid Cocktail Party.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Cocktail Party, a show where we have a few drinks, share a few laughs, take a dive into the unknown. I'm your host Dave, joined as always by my wonderful co-host Sarge. How's it going, Sarge?
Woo! Fucking Father's Day. Also, to our friends in Norway who may have made us the 124th most downloaded podcast in Norway.
That's not even close to...
Cheers in Norwegian, because I'm from Norway. So I'm not from there. I don't speak Norwegian. My grandmother came to the United States from Norway after World War II. And so I just know that your food is mostly inedible. But
you
cheers in Norwegian.
We're not the 124th most downloaded podcast in Norway. That is insane to say.
I don't know. We're charted.
Yeah, in education.
Well, you said, I don't know. You said
we're number 124 in education.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's not all right. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
that's
so there's
fine.
a lot of teachers. We're the most downloaded podcast by teachers, I guess.
Nothing to do with that. Sarge showing his ignorance
Stop
on podcast.
shitting in my ice cream, Dave.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. But anyways, how was your Father's Day? We're recording this on Father's Day, so
Let's just start over. Let's just start all the way over.
No, it's fine.
Let's start over.
It's Father's Day. We're recording this on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all you dads listening. It's coming out the day after Father's Day, but that's never stopped us from doing this.
It's close enough.
Yeah. But anyways, how was your Father's Day, Sarge?
It was good. I took my dad axe throwing. He spent my entire life telling me not to throw axes. Then this motherfucker's just launching them.
Well, I feel like once your kids leave the house, I feel like parents become less.
Yeah. Then you let the freak flag fly, apparently.
Well, I'm glad you had a good Father's Day. I'm glad you got to spend some time with your dad. That's pretty cool. I just talked to mine on the phone. He's the same. He's just doing his thing.
Yeah.
I was like, "What are you doing today?" He's like, "I'm drinking, doing some wiring." I'm like, "What the fuck, Dad?" I feel like those are the two things you shouldn't be doing simultaneously. He's like, "Well, I'm not. Nothing's getting hooked up. It's just I'm putting the wires." I'm like, "All right, Dad, whatever." Okay, you psychopath.
I'm putting the wires in and hoping for the best.
But yeah. So yeah, happy Father's Day, everyone. Hope everyone had a good one, was safe. Hope everyone had a good, safe time at the No Kings marches across the country if you went to them.
Yeah, we did the Pride March. I did the Pride March with my daughter yesterday. Pride March in Boston was also the No Kings rally, but it was they called it No Kings, Yes Queen.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was the most people I have ever seen in Boston all at one time. It was mind-blowing to me. Like, well, I shouldn't say the most, but it was like almost the most. Like the most times, the most amount of people I've seen in Boston was like when we won the World Series in 2004. But this was pretty up there.
It was close enough to that.
Yeah, this was a large mob of angry gays. And I loved it. Well, it was the best thing in the world.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time. All right, Sarge.
Yeah.
You ready to dive into this? Before we start, I do have one quick question for you.
Let's do it.
Are you a superstitious guy by any means?
No. In fact, I'm actually a huge fan of black cats and the number 13.
Okay. All right. But nothing, you don't have any lucky, I mean, you were overseas. You didn't have like a fucking touch a wall or some weird shit like superstition you do for like good luck or anything like that?
Probably. I mean, I probably did, but it was more of like just a ritual to kind of, keep me focused. You know what I mean? Like it was something that you did to stay in the game. It wasn't like I thought if I shit on a Wednesday, I'd be dead on Friday. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I wasn't Wade Boggs in it out there just eating chicken and never changing my socks.
All right. So it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything crazy like okay.
No.
All right. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, I'm sure everyone aware, Saturday, today's Father's Day, which is Sunday. Saturday was the No Kings protest, but the day before that, this past Friday, was Friday the 13th. Also, apparently, it's the only one it's the only one this year, which I found I didn't know that was a thing. You can only just have one. I don't know why that blew my mind, but I was weirded out by that. Yeah, so if anyone out there was planning on getting some super cheap tattoos this year, sucks to suck. You missed your window. But anyways, the reason why I bring up Friday the 13th is because I realized that I have no idea where this superstition comes from. Like, it seems to me, and probably everyone else listening, that we as a society just decided it was unlucky, and then everyone just kind of went along with it. So I figured that today, what we would do is we do a little dive into the history and origins of Friday the 13th, and just kind of see what all the fuss is about. Do you have any idea, like any concept of where it might have come from?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do. I had a friend who was really into conspiracy theories, and so he told me. No, he surprisingly was far more into conspiracy theories than you were. And he once told me that Friday the 13th became the day because the leader of the Knights Templar was killed on Friday the 13th.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's
yeah, that was about it. And I didn't really believe him. I love the guy, and he was one of my closest friends, but, he also believed in some other stuff, so
gotcha.
You just got to take it with a grain of salt.
Some more unsavory things he probably believed in, so you're like, that's good enough for me.
Oh, no. I mean,
okay.
He believed the Holocaust was real and shit. He was just like, chemtrails.
Well, that's good. All right. So, turns out there's more to it than I thought. Before goth kids and tattoo artists co-opted this blasphemous day of days, Friday the 13th already had like deep roots in superstition as well as in religion, both the number 13 and the day Friday itself. It's just really like a mashup of ancient numerology, Christian guilt, and mythological bad omens, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I guess let's start with the number 13. It's pretty much a universal symbol of bad luck. Across a wide array of cultures and beliefs, the number 12 was always considered like complete. There are 12 months in a year, 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 gods of Olympus, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 apostles. You get it.
12 rolls in a dozen.
Well, I was going to say, so naturally, 13 becomes like the other. It's the disruptor that makes everything feel kind of off. Like unless you're a baker, then it's perfect for some reason. It's a baker's
dozen,
yeah,
right?
I don't understand why. But the anxiety around the number 13 didn't really get cranked up to 11 until Christianity got involved.
Naturally, they ruined everything.
Yeah, one of the big, I guess, like origin points for Friday the 13th paranoia goes all the way back to the Last Supper. So Judas, my guy, was supposedly the 13th person to sit down at the table. Then the next day, Jesus was crucified. And can you guess what day that was?
Friday the 13th.
Well, no, it was just a Friday, but you're getting it.
Oh, well, son of a bitch.
No,
God damn it.
No, at this point, Friday already had a reputation as being kind of like a somber and unlucky day. According to some older Christian doctrines, Friday was considered the day that Eve tempted Adam, the day that Cain murked Abel, and also the day that the Great Flood began. Basically, back then, if there was some sort of cosmic fuckery going down, God made sure to pencil it in for a Friday.
Okay.
But Christianity, obviously, didn't really kick this shit off. You're going to enjoy this. In Norse mythology, there's a story where 12 gods are having a nice little dinner party in Valhalla when who else but Loki shows up, uninvited, as the 13th guest, and he just starts stirring shit up. He manipulates another god into killing Balder the Beautiful, who was a beloved god of light and joy. So Balder dies, the world goes dark, and in keeping with tradition, the 13th guest ruins everything.
Utter balderdash.
right? So in both the Norse and Christian frameworks, you got the same pattern. 13 shows up, someone dies, everybody gets bummed out. Now, by the time you get to medieval Europe, Fridays were treated like a holy but haunted day because of the things I mentioned above. And 13 had long been like the numerical equivalent of a black cat walking under a ladder, giving you the finger with one hand and shattering a mirror with the other. But what really made Friday the 13th go from just spooky vibes to a full-blown national day of dread was what happened on Friday, October 13th in the year 1307. Now, Sarge, can you guess what happened on that day?
The guy from the Knights Templar got killed, and that's what it was.
You're close. You're super close.
Okay.
So on that day, King Philip IV of France decided, you know what? These Knights Templar motherfuckers, they're getting just a little too big for their britches, and I don't like that. Now, for those of you who don't know who the Templars are or only know them from Indiana Jones, they were a very powerful and very wealthy order of knights that were originally founded to protect Christian pilgrims during the Crusades and nothing else. They didn't do anything historically that could put a...
Nothing else. No, they definitely didn't do any other bad things.
No, they were perfect in every way. But over time, though, they had gone from holy warriors to money-lending warriors. Like, they had their own fleet of ships, castles, and a whole international banking system going on. They were like medieval Blackwater meets Wells Fargo, and King Philip owed them a shit ton of money. So instead of just, paying, Philip pulled what the kids would call...
a dick move.
Yeah. So instead of just paying, Philip pulled what the kids today would call a straight-up alpha move. He sent out sealed orders to be opened simultaneously across France, commanding the arrest of every Templar in the country. So at dawn on Friday the 13th, hundreds of them were dragged from their beds on some pretty wild charges. So the knights were accused of spitting on the cross, worshipping a mysterious bearded head, as well as doing some weird sex things to each other during initiation rites. It was part witch hunt, part debt erasure, and it was like all propaganda. The entire country hated the Knights Templar at this point.
I was going to say, the organization I belong to left out the sex stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, there was a lot of weird sex stuff. Now, dozens of Templars were tortured and confessed to the charges under duress. Most were burned alive. Now, the most famous of them, Grandmaster Jacques de Molay, he actually held out until 1314 before he was finally executed in Paris. Now, according to legend, as he was being burned alive, he cursed both the king and the pope, summoning them to meet him before God within the year. And this is kind of badass. They did. They both died within months of Jacques' execution.
Amazing.
So, I don't believe in God or curses, but if I was around back then and that happened, it would probably make me question whose side God was really on in that matter. Like,
if this be not heresy or defection, by what name should we call it?
But yeah, you're part of an organization, Sarge. Do you know any more on this, or is the?
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff. There's some stuff, but I can't tell you because it's all secret. But I will tell you that I did know Jacques de Molay, Hou de Parole, and Guy of Auvergne. And that's about it. No, I mean, like, I know a bunch about this because I was in this organization. So there's an organization for young men, ages, I think it's 12 or 14 to 21, and it's called de Molay. And it's actually something my little brother was in, my sister's husband was a big member. That sounded weird. Wasn't talking about penises, but that's how it sounded. And I get that. So we were in this organization. It was really just like a youth group where we like did fun stuff. Like we went to like amusement parks and shit.
So is this like, it sounds like you're describing like the Cub Scout version to the this is like the Cub Scout version to the Boy Scouts version of the what is it called? The Masons or something like that?
The Masons, yeah. You know, you had the Boy Scouts and then we were the Man Scouts. Like it taught you how to be like an adult in polite society. You learned a lot about civic stuff. You learned how government works, that kind of thing. It was a cool little group. And I you know, my best friend was in it and we were, you know, we're still very close. And you learned about this particular instance of Guy of Auvergne, Houdet Perral, Jacques de Molay being imprisoned on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, but anywho, while the connection between Friday the 13th and the Templar arrests wasn't widely considered the true beginning of the idea until like the 20th century, I think like Dan Brown and like conspiracy theorists, like,
oh God, yeah,
they all kind of latched onto the story as like the true origin, and it has since become for sure one of the most like dramatic origin stories tied to the superstition. I mean,
yeah,
no one can say for sure when and where it truly began, but Friday the 13th, 1307 definitely gave it like a real body count and like not a great legacy going forward. So
yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And we learned, and I don't know how true this is, you'll fill us in because you did the research, but we learned that Philip the Fair of France did this because he wanted all the money that the Knights Templar had because he had pissed away a lot of his money on bullshit.
Yeah, well, he loaned the Knights Templar loaned him. He was broke, so they loaned him a bunch of money, and then instead of like just paying it back, he was like, "Fuck all y'all! I'm gonna wipe you all out, and then I'm just gonna."
So he Donald Trumped it,
and then he seized all the gold, like all their, I guess, gold back. I don't know what it'd be. They didn't have cash, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. He seized their lands and their titles.
He basically, and then he turned everyone against the Knight. Like, it was propaganda.
My buddy Frank is going to be real mad at me if I don't mention this, but there was another guy. His name was Godfrey de Godville. So it's Godfrey de Godville, Houdet Perral, Guy of Auvergne, and Jacques de Molay. My mistake. I apologize. There was 4 of them.
4 of them. Okay. All right. So
yeah.
I only know about this.
Brother-in-law James is probably bricked up right now when knowing that I'm talking about this.
Okay, so far we've got Norse gods, Christianity, and betrayed knights to really like set the stage. But despite centuries of vague superstition floating around, Friday the 13th didn't really become like an official thing in society until like surprisingly recently. The phrase Friday the 13th wasn't even commonly written down until the 1800s, and even then it wasn't like drenched in horror. It was more of like a weird coincidence people noticed when shit went weird, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That is until 1907 when stockbroker and novelist Thomas Lawson published a book called Friday the 13th. The plot of the book basically summed up as like a shady broker and his friend make reckless stock trades on Friday the 13th in order to crash the stock market. I guess it was kind of like a mashup of like American Psycho meets Wall Street, but the book was like a huge hit. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. Like the date was firmly planted in Western culture, kind of a day that's not cursed, but like cursed light, I guess. Like,
yeah, not a great day.
It became bad enough to make people like cancel plans, but not so bad that you need to like consult a priest about it.
Yeah, that's why they don't have 13th floors in some tall buildings.
Yeah, well, that actually leads me to this. Like, it led to some pretty weird modern
No,
you're good. But it led to like some pretty weird modern superstitions, like hotels and skyscrapers skipping the 13th floor. A lot of planes don't have a row 13. People refuse to go to work or get married on Friday the 13th. And especially in Western cultures where the number 13 already had like a bad rap thanks to Jesus and numerology. And of course, the episode wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention that in 1980, the movie Friday the 13th came out. And as I'm sure you all know, the film leaned hard into the superstition, using the date as a backdrop for all the shenanigans that went on at Camp Crystal Lake. And then since then, Hollywood and the media have played a really big part in pushing the Friday the 13th superstitions to the masses. It's pretty much everywhere at this point.
Yeah.
But all that said and done, Friday the 13th isn't a universal thing. Like, for instance, in Italy, Friday the 17th is considered the unluckiest day. And in Spain and much of Latin America, it's Tuesday the 13th. So I guess culturally the date is flexible, I guess. It just needs one of the two, like a Friday or a 13. It seems like. It's really just whatever one you want to put it on.
Yeah.
How you feeling so far, Sarge?
This is fucking great. I'm very excited. I got to mention Frank and James, my brother-in-law and my best friend, and then of course my younger brother Jordan, who was so James and Jordan were actually state officers in this group. They were like bigwigs in Massachusetts when they were kids because of this. So I just texted them. I'm very excited. I can't wait for them to hear this. I'm also excited because it validates some of the crazy things Frank told me when I was younger. But I'm also alarmed because now I wonder what other things he told me actually turned out to be true. Like, do I need a gas mask when I go outside? Or
dude, that's the one thing about conspiracy theorists. Like, there's part of me that at some points where I'm like, what if Alex Jones is right? You know what I mean? Like, what if we're all the crazy ones? Like, what? Because you come across something that's like, I mean, to be fair, the best conspiracy theories have some semblance of truth. So when you come across something that is true, that's part of a larger conspiracy, you're like, fuck. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's
You're
all
like, oh shit, what else is real?
Oh, I hate that. I hate it so much because then I second guess myself and I feel like a crazy person. But it's like, nah, they're the crazy ones.
Exactly.
You have like a momentary lapse.
I was picking on Frank earlier. He's not that crazy. He didn't believe in chemtrails, but you know, he had some conspiracy theories he threw at me that, like, you know what, in cartoons, when somebody takes like a drug or whatever and their eyes dilate, that's what happened to me when I met Frank. This dude turned me on to a ton of crazy shit. So, Frank, I know you're going to listen to this. I just want to thank you for making me goddamn weird. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah.
So the Friday the 13th panic we know and love is mostly just really a mashup of weird history, religious nonsense, publishing gimmicks, and Hollywood and the media, which really is the basis for almost everything we observe or celebrate in our country. Yeah. So I don't know why this would be any different. But like I said, I wanted to know more about it, so now you guys have to know about it. But I guess the question I should have been asking isn't why do we observe it, but does it actually live up to the hype? Like, is there a reason for us to fear it? Like, have there been real world tragedies or events that have happened? Or are we, as a species, just looking for patterns in the chaos that is life? Well, it's a little bit of both. For starters, some people suffer from the condition known as, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, triskaidekaphobia. That's the fancy $5 word for the fear of number 13.
Dude, you nailed it. I would have fucked that up.
Then you can
I would have even tried.
I had to give it a shot. Then you can supersize that for $1 more and get paraskividekatriophobia, which is the fear of Friday the 13th specifically. So as
Jesus Christ,
in our society, we have played up the hype around Friday the 13th so much that there's an actual phobia about it, which is insane. But hey, they only happen a couple times a year, if sometimes once a year. So a lot of people don't have much to worry about. Now,
yeah,
the superstition also has a very real and tangible economic impact, like billions of dollars kind of impact. Studies have shown that on Friday the 13th, people are less likely to travel, schedule major medical procedures, make big purchases, or even go to work. The Stress Management and Phobia Institute once estimated that the U.S. loses up to $900 million every time that date rolls around, just from people like collectively chickening out. Yeah.
So if you need to get an appointment at the DMV, sounds like Friday the 13th is the way to go if you're not super superstitious.
I guess. I mean, I feel like it's a nightmare no matter what day.
Yeah, no, it's true. You know what's interesting about this? Sorry to cut you off. But you know what's interesting about this is that in Hell's Angels by Hunter S. Thompson, he talks about the number 13 and its meaning to the Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would have like a 13 patch.
Yeah.
And that's because 13 stands for the 13th letter of the alphabet, which is M, which stands for marijuana.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they would have 13 patches that would just signify that they like to smoke weed.
I feel like that's extra. I feel like you don't have to do that.
Well, I mean, you do run into problems when you start using the numerical code for the alphabet.
True, but also I feel like if you're in the Hells Angels, I just assumed that that would be the case anyways. Like, I mean,
I'm sure now 13 stands for meth, but
I was
back
gonna
in
say,
the day,
yeah. I mean, that's where my head went when you first said the letter M. I was like, yeah, no, we know where this is going. It's fine. No, are there actually more accidents or disasters on Friday the 13th? Not really. Some studies have shown a small uptick in accidents or hospital visits, but others showed no significant difference. But we as a society are really good at cherry picking events to fit a narrative. Case in point, I did just
yeah.
that. A 13-year-old boy in the UK, 13-year-old boy in the UK was struck by lightning at exactly 13:13 on Friday the 13th back in 2010. He survived, but the media ate that shit
You're
up.
getting fancy with it.
Yeah. The Costa Concordia
That's 1
cruise
p.m.
ship.
for the rest of you.
Yes, Sarge. The Costa Concordia cruise ship capsized on Friday, January 13th, 2012, killing 32 people. And probably the most infamous was Flight 571, crashed on Friday, October 13th in 1972. Survivors were stranded in the Andes for 72 days and had to resort to cannibalism to survive. You might know this story better as the incident that inspired the movie Alive.
Yeah, and a couple of restaurants.
What?
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a couple of restaurants that opened up that were people themed.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Maybe. I need a people.
But here's the thing. Humans are wired to notice patterns. So when something awful happens on Friday the 13th, it feels bigger, heavier, more meant to be, even though statistically shit goes wrong all the time. Sometimes it just happens to land on a Friday with a spooky number. So
yeah,
the real power of Friday the 13th isn't some ancient curse. It's in the way we collectively treat it like a curse. But in the more recent years, people have been kind of leaning into the superstition. Tattoo shops run Friday the 13th flash sales, cheap tattoos, usually tiny spooky ones, in celebration of the unluckiest day of the year. Bars serve up special cocktails. Haunted houses open out of season. And small towns with a more dark sense of humor throw like Friday the 13th festivals with vendors and horror movie screenings. And it's like we see with like a bunch of the other stuff we cover. What was once feared is now celebrated. And that's one of like the rad things about modern folklore. Like it mutates. It gets recycled through pop culture, the media, and pretty much like detachment to the point where we don't know whether we're afraid or just vibing with it ironically or just full on celebrating it. But yeah, there you have it, Sarge. That is the origin and lead up to where we are now on Friday the 13th. How you feeling about it?
I am so sorry that I didn't believe you, Frank. Holy shit.
I mean, technically he's not right, but he's also not wrong.
No, he is right. I don't think he said it that they died on that day. He probably told me like the whole story because he's a really smart guy.
But it's also idiot. Not the true origin of Friday the 13th. So he's kind of right and kind of wrong. People say
but like, he wasn't far off the money is what I'm saying.
He was not. No.
No, I think this was cool. I'm glad I learned something today. Besides the fact that my dad gets real mad when I beat him at throwing axes. Sorry, Gus.
Yeah, I've always, Friday the 13th has always been part of the zeitgeist of society that like I never even once bothered to look into why or how.
Well, yeah, it's like it's one of those things that we just take for granted until you actually start thinking about it and you're like, wait, why is this a problem?
Yeah, it's not. I've never had anything bad happen to me on a Friday the 13th, so I'm not crazy concerned about it.
Me neither. I mean,
I just wanted to know where it came from and what the whole deal was. And I learned, and now you all learned.
I often use the number 13 in my passwords. I like 13, though. Like, the number 13 doesn't bother me at all.
I got no problem with I don't think it's a bad number. I mean, if I had to choose a number that I think is worse, 27, if I'm going to be honest, that's just, I hate that.
Yeah,
it's not a good
I don't
number.
like 27. There's something wrong with that number.
It's not a good number. And I don't know if that's like an autism thing, but I feel like 27 is more cursed than 13.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the number 27. I love the number 13.
Yeah, it's great. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Sarge. Any final thoughts? Any parting things you want to say about the episode before we go into all the plug-in and stuff?
No. That was actually a lot of fun. I really liked that topic. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to look into more 13 stuff. I want to see like what else people don't do when there's a 13. Like, do the Duggars, like, is their 13th kid a fucking demon? What happened? I want to know more.
That whole family's demonic to begin with, so it doesn't really matter.
No, that's absolutely true. Josh Duggar. When your first kid is a fucking sex pest, you should have stopped having kids.
Yeah, but they didn't know that until like they were like 8 deep, I feel like, probably.
Yeah, but they still had like 28 other kids after that. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
stop.
fair. Yeah.
You made a bad one the first time around. The rest can't be that great.
All right, Sarge. Yeah, that's the episode. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I know we got a bunch of new listeners recently, so thank you so much for checking us out. If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps the show get into more people's ears. So tell your friends, family, whoever you think might be interested in learning about cryptids, aliens, conspiracies, or weird historical things about holidays that we celebrate. You can follow us on Instagram, Cryptid Cocktail. Follow us TikTok, Cryptid Cocktail Party. We got a Patreon if you want to sub to that. And Sarge, you got anything you want to plug before we sign off?
No, I just want to say happy Pride to everyone. I know Pride happens in different weekends throughout June, but frankly, Pride is one of my favorite months. Not only because it highlights and celebrates a community that took me in when I was an odd, weird teenager, even though I wasn't a member of the LGBTQ community. I was like accepted as a friend. And then, you know, it doesn't hurt the fact that conservative morons hate it. That also makes me very happy. So happy Pride, happy holidays to you conservative fuckheads. And I hope everybody had a great weekend and go do some gay shit because I'm proud of you.
Be gay, do crime. All right, Sarge. With
Yes.
that out of the way, do you want to say goodbye and I love you to the audience?
Yes, audience, goodbye. I love you. Also, happy 250th birthday, Army. Sorry you had to march in Dipshit's parade, but I hope you got drunk yesterday. Goodbye, and I love you.
Cryptid Cocktail Party. Cryptid Cocktail